Hi, my name is Jen Gangler, and I would like to introduce you to my final project that was put together while taking my instructional technology course at Morningside College. At the beginning of the course, we were told that we were going to think about a problem that just drove us crazy in our classrooms. And so one thing we did is brainstormed and talked to some colleagues, and one thing that drives me crazy is students having to take computerized exams at the end of our courses and not scoring very well, as opposed to throughout the course of the school year, students are taking tests on paper and pencil. So the one problem that I decided I would do is I was going to do some research on how to increase those students' scores on their computerized exams by incorporating technology, and to also look at the difference, if there was one to be found, between tests taking on paper and pencil and the tests that were taking on computerized exams. In coming up with our research project, our professor set up milestones. To look at the project all together looked very overwhelming, but as he had it broken down, we had different milestones to go through. So the first thing we were asked to do is come up with a problem statement, a statement that really got down to the root of what we wanted to change in our classrooms. So in looking at my problem, I wanted to focus on the fact that students struggle to prepare for exams. It's more difficult for them to prepare for computerized exams when they normally experience their exams on paper. Also, infusing technology throughout the curriculum may help deepen their mathematical skills and build their confidence on their computerized test that they're required to take in our school district. Milestone number 2 was the annotated bibliography. We were required to research 20 articles, not just any articles, not looking up Google, but 20 articles that had to be scholarly and peer-reviewed. To begin that process, I was a little alarmed, as this is the beginning of my graduate education courses. But looking into it and spoke with a couple librarians from the school district, and I also had some conversations with the librarians from Morningside College. They were able to help me come up with some things to type in and to search. And on the Morningside Library webpage, there's a great Mustang search page. When I would type in what I needed to do, for example, computerized test versus paper and pencil test, it did not just search Morningside's library, but it searched multiple databases. So I was able to pull up as many articles that related to what I needed to research and look under. So this here is just a quick a blurb of what I did to start out. So looked up the articles. We were required to give just a brief understanding and abstract of what the article was going to be about. We looked at the theme of the articles, and then at the very end, under collection themes, we were asked to sum it up on what we found, research-based things that we found that might be able to help us with the problem at hand. For example, I learned new technology to investigate. Shobi, Evernote, Nearpod, Socrative, and Dropbox are all new different technology tools that I was able to look up and try to help infuse into my classroom as I get going in the fall. Also looking further into more specifically mathematics, on the bottom right here, I have one of the studies that I read about showed data to support the effect of technology on student comprehension. On the top left here, I also read about a study that discussed the movement from paper test into computer test. And based on the results of the study, the computer tests are valid replacements for the paper tests. That article really helped me relate to the fact that it is okay for my kids to take these tests on computers. I just needed to come up with a way to help the students become a little bit more confident and comfortable in doing that. In the bottom left there, another article reaffirmed thoughts that students had a negative perception of taking these tests on the computer. Like anything, when things are new, it is tough for students to have a positive understanding when they're not getting results that they're used to getting on those exams. So my goal is to to take these 20 articles and we really dug deep and to find what themes were related to our project, what themes were going to help me come up with a solution, which was the next milestone in our project. So the next thing we were asked to do is come up with implementation choices. We were asked to come up with 3 different plans and then to defend our choice as to which one is going to work best for our classrooms. My first plan, my plan was to utilize a website called MyEduLink that connects educators with mentors and helps you communicate about new technology. I work at a school, we have lots of veteran teachers, and not everybody is open-minded about trying something new. Change is always hard for people, especially educators and myself included. So I really do want to connect more with people that are more familiar with technology and to bounce ideas off and to help find some new things that are exciting to bring into that classroom. Plan number 2. One of the articles really focused about having more frequent self-check quizzes using the computer to help prepare them as they get to that final. So students are going to take a self-check quiz every Monday, and that way it gives them some consistency. That self-check quiz is going to include problems that were taught from all previous lessons. So normally I've been focusing on just the lesson from the day before, and we're kind of forgetting about those lessons that happened 2-3 weeks ago. So I'd like to infuse some more of those review questions so they're constantly reviewing and not able to forget those concepts as well. The quizzes also, I wanted to make sure they were not all multiple choice. They weren't just fill in the blank, that they were going to see a multitude of representations of problems and asked in different ways and hopefully help them with not only their semester tests on computerized exams, but their Iowa assessments that are a big standardized test in the state of Iowa. And also as they're going to move to the Smarter Balance test, which is all on computer, in hopes that this would give them the more confidence that they need in preparing for those bigger tests. Plan number 3, I would like to have my students start to use a new technology app called Shobi, which will be used for students to organize their homework. They can take notes or have access to notes that I post on that site, especially for some guided notes and some fill-in-the-blank notes that my special ed students and my ELL students and sometimes my regular ed students that just don't have a label but need that little more structure in the math classroom. Also videos, tutoring videos, examples of how math is used in the real world that relate to what we're teaching. It can also be used to give them their grades, have those quizzes on there, have a test on there, and be able to give them some feedback, and also for communication, not only with my students, but we can set up calendars as a classroom and have communication and also have that communication with the parents. After looking at plans 1 to 3, we were asked to pick one of those plans and try to put that into action. So I chose to implement plan number 3, which is to implement that new technology of Shobi to help students gain confidence on the computerized test and to keep them engaged in the curriculum. Nothing makes me happier when those principals walk in for an evaluation and my students are engaged, they're on task, and this principal is walking out and complimenting you on your classroom behavior and how the class really was focused. And that's great because we want all kids to learn and be engaged. And it doesn't hurt to have a principal pat you on the back and say that was impressive. So the other thing is we're going to implement it to deliver information. We're going to collaborate with peers, and they're going to learn how to do a little independent learning in the math classroom. Trying to get away from teacher-centered and having me lecture all the time as the teacher. So in order to deliver information, you're able to upload videos from Khan Academy, from our online textbook is really great. And they have lots of personal tutors and examples and videos of how this relates to the real world. And those things can all be used and uploaded into Shobi. Also collaborating with peers, we can have them collaborate in discussions. We can have them pair up with other students, work together, and learning independently, giving them some time and an expectation that they're not going to be spoon-fed and I'm not going to show them everything, but maybe have them discover some of the learning and discover why the Pythagorean theorem works, and not just tell them a squared plus b squared equals c squared, but have some true understanding and discovery learning of why things are working in math, and how that math relates to the real world. In picking plan number 3, I thought, you know what, I can't really ignore plan number 2. So my plan is to also implement the use of plan number 2, the weekly self-check assessments. And I'm going to be able to upload those right into Shobi. The nice thing is that they can be graded right away, and those students are going to have some instant feedback on the problems that they miss. For example, problem number 1, they choose the wrong answer. I'm able to have comments on there on why that was not the correct answer and how they can come up with their correct answer. Also, I really struggle sometimes with making sure I have parent communication. We focus on calling parents that are students that are failing, but I also would like to communicate and congratulate and inform parents on the kids that are doing what they're supposed to do. Those kids that are getting that B, they're really probably a C student. But being able to have better parent communication, we'll be able to invite parents to log on and follow us on the Shobi website. So when at home, they have access. Many parents come in during conferences and express concern because, you know, they might not have completed as high of a math course. They did not do so well, or they weren't applied, and some of them haven't graduated. And so it's hard for them to help. But having these videos and homework assignments and links will really help the students, as our students don't have textbooks to take home for mom and dad to look at. This would give them a way for them to go through some of the material with their students at home. The next milestone was to create a 4-week implementation plan. And so what I looked at was to begin gradually introducing them to the Shobi website, having students watch tutorial videos, having students participate in their first discussion. We're going to have them do what we do in the classroom normally, but this way we're going to try to have them do this online, and a discussion of 2 truths and 1 lie. Students will also respond to 5 other students. So normally in the classroom, you know, we've got 1 or 2 of those students that we know are always raising their hands, wanting to shout out and guess. This will give everyone, even those quiet, shy kids, a chance to respond and learn a little bit about the students that they're going to be in class with. We're also going to take our first pre-assessment through Shobi on the first unit we have, which is Tools of Geometry. And we also then are going to take those scores that they get on this test and make decisions on how the students see their prior knowledge, what they think they need to focus on, and have that discussion as a classroom. Plan number 2, or week number 2, we will start with inviting our parents to sign up for Shobi. And students will also continue each week to try to get into the second discussion. And they're going to look up a search engine to look up how geometry is used in the real world. And students are going to relate that back in their discussions and be able to see all the different ways that it is actually used. And oftentimes as a teacher, it's hard for us to tell a student, and this way they're going to look up for themselves and, you know, listen to their peers and those kind of things. Students are going to participate a little bit more. We're going to add a little bit more to Shobi. We're going to connect our online textbook, get passwords for that. And students are going to watch what you see over here. The PT stands for personal tutor. So students are going to watch this personal tutor video that goes through just as I would. The nice thing about that personal tutor for my classroom is that they have those videos in English, and they also have those videos in Spanish. And so for my students, some of them will choose to hear that in Spanish, and that will just help strengthen their L1, and hopefully strengthens their L2 as they're really working on that. Students are going to continue to take that self-check quiz for lessons 1 and 2. Each lesson is going to have 5 questions. Students will instantly receive a score on that self-check quiz, and also will get explanations on the ones that they did not get correct. What we're going to do is I also am able to have a co-teacher in those classrooms, which is great. And so students that score 80% proficiency or above, those students will be moving on Separately, students that score under 80%, I'm going to have with the coach